all the ingredients for fresh homemade salsa straight from your garden.
Who doesn't love fresh salsa from your garden? One of the most satisfying things about having a garden is getting your own fresh vegetables and making something with it. Today we're going to make some salsa. So today we're going to make two different types of salsas. The first one we're going to make is a Pico de Gallo. These are all from my garden. Tomatoes, we have onions, we have garlic. I'll put a link in the description box below to all of these when I planted them and harvested them. But again, we have some jalapenos and some long green chilies. In your Pico de Gallo or any salsa that you make, you can essentially put whatever you like. I personally prefer a red onion, but we did not plant red onions this year, so we're just going to use a regular onion. So let me just show you how easy it is to make your own salsa from your own vegetables that you got from your garden. So first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and use our jalapenos. And again, if you want, you can take those seeds out. A lot of times there's a little vein that's inside of the chili peppers, and I'll show you that on these larger ones, that you're going to be able to take out, and that will take a little bit of the heat out. But again, what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and we like it hot in the Brandon household, so I'm going to keep those seeds in there, and I'm going to keep all of those veins in there. So we're just going to go ahead and chop these up. Again, you can chop them up however you want, however size you want. There's really no specific things that you have to do. I like mine kind of chunky a little bit, so you can just take that, and you can use a food processor if you want. It makes it a little bit easier to chop, especially if you're making large amounts of this Pico de Gallo. So we're just using a little bit just for demonstration purposes today. And again, you could use green jalapenos, you can use red jalapenos. Different types of colors also make it very interesting for your people when you're eating them. So that's it. That's the first part. So I'm going to take that, we're going to put that in our bowl here. Then we're going to take our chili pepper here. This is a long green Anaheim that I planted. And let me just open this up for you so you can see real quick. So oftentimes when you either roast your chilies or you see this here, this is the little veins that you can remove this if you want. If you don't like the heat, you can just take that off, and that will remove a little bit of the heat. It's not going to remove, if it's a hot chili, it's a hot chili. But if you do remove that vein, it does help a little bit regarding the actual heat that is produced. The Scoville is the rating system for how hot chili is. So you can, again, use whatever types of chili you want to use if you like it really super hot, or you can use a mild chili, and that would make it, somebody who's not real familiar with the heat or doesn't like the heat, you could do that. So we got the two different types of chilies in here. And then we're going to take our tomatoes. This particular tomato here is a San Marzano tomato. And I grew 4 different varieties this year, and did fairly. We have a heat wave going on right now, so we're kind of slow in the production area right now. But usually around the end of July or September, August, we'll start to produce again, because it's so doggone hot. It's in the hundreds here in my hometown in El Paso, and in this region here right now in 8A, but I think the whole country is pretty hot at the moment. So if you want to check out a couple of the videos that I have linked, you might also be able to see some of the different ways that you can plant these tomatoes or different vegetables. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. So the other thing I like to do when I make any kind of food, or especially my salsas, is you can use different types of and different varieties when you put things into your food. That also enhances the flavor quite a bit. And so I have here for my tomatoes, I've used 2 or 3 different varieties of tomatoes. Now, people will ask me often, how much of each do you put in? Again, you can put whatever you want depending on your salsa, how you want it. If you're making a specific salsa and you like, as an example, more onion than you like tomatoes or any of those kinds of things, you can basically do however the amount that you want. So typically what you'll do is you'll do equal amounts of all of the different ingredients, with the exception of maybe garlic. But you want to use what you have, number one, and number two, what you feel like you would like to use. I'm going to take maybe 2 cloves of garlic, and we're going to put that in the salsa also. Again, this is just optional. If you like garlic, then put some garlic in there. If you don't like garlic, then don't. And you can again put as much of any of these ingredients as you want into your salsa. This is homemade salsa that we're making from fresh vegetables from my garden. This is garlic that I grew. Started that in October and we harvested that around June time. I'm going to put actually 1 more in there just because I like garlic. And I'll show you, I'll put a link again in the video description below of the garlic harvest and how to plant that. So I have this, you can chop that up if you want with your knife. Also I have this garlic press that makes it super easy to just take that and not only puts the juice in there, but it also chops it up pretty fine for you. So I'll do 1 more. And that's how you do the garlic. So now we've done that, I'm going to use onion now. And again, we put a link in the how to plant onions, how to harvest them. It's pretty simple knowing when to harvest your onions. Come on, there we go. Okay. So now I would say this is about the appropriate size of onion for this amount of salsa that we're going to use here. Again, you can chop everything as chunky as you'd like or as finely as you like. What I tend to like to do is I'll cut all of my vegetables the same size though, okay? So you don't want big chunks. Again, you can do it however you want. What I do is I like to have everything uniform and the same size in your salsa, so you're not getting a big chunk of tomato or a big chunk of onion and then you know, smaller pieces of everything else. So once you do this, and you just mix up your vegetables that you got in here in your salsa, your homemade salsa. Fresh, this is specifically, we call this in the Southwest Pico de Gallo. And next what we'll do is we're just going to take a little bit of lime juice, and again we'll put this in my lime press and put a little lime juice in there. Let's take a mix again. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. You're going to add just a little bit of salt after your water. Mix all of that up. So that's how you make Pico de Gallo. All we need now is some margaritas and a party. Next, I'm going to show you how to make a different type of salsa, an actual real salsa that we're going to put on the grill, smoke our vegetables and chilies, and it's going to be delicious. So to make our flame roasted salsa, we're going to take the vegetables that we harvested from our garden, and we're putting it in a little basket and chopping them up a little bit. And what we're going to do with these is we're going to put these on the grill, smoke them, and cook them.
Take your roasted chili, place it in a bowl, and then you're going to cover it with plastic wrap. This allows the chili to steam, making it easier to remove that skin. Yummy.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to take those chilies that were kind of sweating in the bowl and just take off that skin real easy. It's much better to do it this way, in my opinion, because what that does, instead of running this under water, and you'll take off all of the flavor of the roasted chili there. So you're going to do that with the remainder of your chilies here. Chop the top off, put that in our compost for later, and then we're going to remove the seeds. Now remember on the other video that I talked about, see that little vein right there in the middle? And what you can, if you don't like the heat, you can remove that vein. That will remove a little bit of the heat, so that might be something that you might consider. But again, a lot of it depends on the type of variety that you're using. So once you remove the seeds, you're going to take that and place that right in here in your food processor. So Eric here is a seasoned veteran, and we're used to this hot temperature of the jalapenos, and so you can just remove the jalapenos or your hot chilies with your hands if you want, or if you are sensitive to that kind of thing, then you can certainly put some gloves on, and that will help keep the heat from your fingers, and then when you touch your face or your eyes or your nose, it's not as bad. But again, you can see we're removing the seeds. And if you do want to take a little bit more heat out, you can see those green little veins there. If you take those off, that will also remove a little bit of that heat. So we're putting the remaining chilies in our food processor, and then next we'll go ahead and put the rest of the roasted vegetables in here and get on with our salsa. So now we're going to put all our vegetables in our food processor, and what we recommend is that you take the skin off of the roasted tomato that you just made, because that'll make the salsa a little bit more bitter. So these are the spices that we're going to use in our fire roasted salsa, and we also made some fresh home made green chili powder that we did. I'm going to put a link in the description box below for how you can do your own powder. We made some Hungarian paprika powder, and if you want a little bit more kick in your salsa, you can put some cayenne pepper in there too. So it's all up to you on how much you want to use. Look at that scrumptious fire roasted salsa, homemade. So the consistency of your salsa needs to be a little bit watery, because what you're going to be doing is when you put this in a jar and put it in the refrigerator for later, it will start to solidify a little bit. So you might think it's a little bit watery, so you can add water depending on how much you want to put in there and how thick you want your salsa. So you can use some lime juice, freshly squeezed would be best. What that helps to do, of course, is add a little flavor to your salsa. But on top of that, what it'll do, it'll give you some acid, and that will also help to preserve your salsa over time. You're going to pour that in a funnel into your jar. Look at that goodness. So this is your final product of the flame roasted, fire roasted salsa, homemade from your garden. Even Luna likes it. Don't forget to subscribe.